Hey class, pardon me. Welcome to the week 4 lab. Many people get confused by this lab, so I wanted to kind of go through it together. So what we're looking at right now is the lab just as you started up. We've got some of these yellow balls coming from the sky, red balls going up in the air. You'll notice when you first start the lab, you actually won't see any of those and they'll start to appear over time. So I want to go through and make some observations together. First of all, what we have here is we have these yellow packets of light that are coming from the sky. And I call them light because that's exactly what they are. They're that visible light that comes from the sun that we all see. It's what allows us to see. And then what happens is these yellow packets of light hit the earth. The ground does a little bit of magic, we'll call it, and it changes the wavelength of this light so that we can no longer see it, but it converts it into what's called infrared light, okay, or heat. Maybe you guys have seen those IR cameras that allow you to see people's body heat through the walls. This is what they're looking at, basically these red packets of light, okay? Now what I want you to notice is these yellow packets. They are coming from the sky and they're all passing right through this gray blanket right here, okay? So notice none of them are bouncing back, all of them are passing through it. But watch these red packets of light. Many of them are able to go through, but you notice that many of them also are reflected back down to the earth, okay? So we can watch some of them, watch them for a little bit, and you see some of them go through, some of them come back. So now what does that mean? For those ones that are reflected back to light, if that's heat, that means that there's heat being reflected back down to the earth, okay? So that's a little bit of heating that's taking place, okay? So right now, let's look at our time period. We're in the year 1750. Our temperature is 57 degrees Fahrenheit. And what do we notice? Let's notice what's out here. There's cows, there's some farms. Everything's pretty natural and rural looking, right? Okay? Next thing, let's go ahead and progress to today's time, okay? So I'm going to click on that little bar. See, at first we don't have a whole lot, but these things are going to start coming. Again, more of these yellow packets, they're all passing right through. But notice what's different, okay? Let's make some observations about what's different. This gray blanket has changed, hasn't it? And our landscape has certainly changed. So you want to make observations about how, what the landscaping looks like. What's causing some of these changes that we're seeing, okay? So now notice, let's follow these red packets of light. What's happening here? We've still got some passing through, but because this blanket's thicker, what's happening to those red packets? Okay, so make observations about that. Let's also notice how our temperature has changed, okay? All right, so we're watching this for a little while, seeing what's happening. Now let's go ahead and bump it up to 40 years in the future. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Now notice how things have changed. So again, we're looking at temperature, this blanket of light, and noticing observations, seeing what impact these things have had. Okay. So let's let this run for a little bit and see what effect this has had on the yellow packets and the red packets, and making observations about the landscaping and the temperature. Okay, so let's just watch this for a moment. Next thing I want to do is let's click on this little microscope. Let's see what this is showing us. Okay, and what we see is we've got a molecule of CO2 here in the middle, okay? And it's showing us yellow packets coming through, red packets going up. Let's watch it for a little bit. Notice all the yellow goes through, and most of those reds, a lot of those reds actually went through, right? But every once in a while, one will bounce back. Okay, so actually most of them are able to pass through. All right, now let's go to the CH4, which is methane. Okay, still the yellow light's passing right through. And the red lights, the red are able to go through. What I would watch here is notice basically how many red go through versus how many are reflected, how many bounce back. And this is giving us some indication of how effective this molecule is at how effective it is as a greenhouse gas. How bad is it? So, and it seems this, yeah, and I'll let you make your own observations about that. Next one, let's go to nitrous oxide here. Okay, yellow light still passes right through. Well, let's look at the red ones for a little bit. Okay, I think that should be good. This should look the same no matter what time period you're at, so you only have to look at this once. Okay, so again, what you want to do when you're going through this lab is go through each time period. Notice your blanket of how thick the blanket of light is, that gray blanket is, and see the impact that that's had. Make observations about the landscape, what's causing these changes in this blanket that you're seeing, and how that blanket has impacted the number of red packets that are leaving the atmosphere. Okay, make detailed observations and draw strong conclusions. So I hope this helps, and let me know if you guys have any questions.